Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are and whatever you're doing. I hope you're having a fantastic day. As part 1 had such a great reception, here's some more things in Baldur's Gate 3 that you still aren't doing, but should be. I've said it once, but it bears repeating. Chances are you already knew most of these things, but just forgot exactly how powerful they were and stopped doing them, so let's revisit them now. This first tip is particularly prominent late game when you have lots of carry weight. Did you know that when you have finished a fight, you can just pick up the corpses of your enemies and carry them around in your bag? Why would you want to do this, you ask? It's so that anyone with a spell like Create Undead has a fresh supply of corpses at their disposal to summon to help you in combat. This works with small and medium corpses, and weight really does matter. Some of them are significantly lighter than others. As you can see here, Black Gauntlet Tamir has a weight of 75, whereas the Gondian only has a weight of 35. And this works on all small and medium humanoids, so make sure you're picking up and storing the lighter ones and using the heavier ones first. The second tip I've got for you today is to always keep a candle on you. The reason why may seem very insignificant at first, but bear with me as I talk you through exactly how powerful this can be. Dropping a candle at your character's feet before combat will allow all of your characters to use the dip action, obviously as long as the candle is lit. And this will give all of your character's weapon attacks an additional 1d4 of fire damage per swing. And some classes can attack multiple times per action and multiple actions per turn. So just this additional completely free 1d4 of damage can easily add up to 10 or 20 points of damage per turn. And not only that, as you see in action here before we move on to tip number 3, you can even dip your ranged weapons for the exact same effect. The next tip is particularly useful in combat against ledges, cliffs, hills, any kind of big drop. And this is because at high levels of strength, you are able to use the throw command on medium-sized enemies. For the longest time, a lot of us thought you could only throw small enemies, so this command was just good for punting gnomes and goblins. However, if you get any character to drink the elixir of hill giant strength, they will now even be able to throw humans and any other regular sized enemies, including the animated armors that you see here. So you now have an additional way to throw your enemies off ledges, dealing tremendous amounts of damage to them, because shove is a bonus action and throw is an action, which means if you are faced with 2 enemies and you're lucky with your dice rolls, you can use both of these actions to get rid of 2 enemies at once. This is perhaps the most important tip ever, and I'm sure most people will have known this at some point, but it's so easy to forget. When one of your companions is downed, as long as they aren't completely dead, just downed like Gale is here, you can heal them from afar to revive them. And there's not just one, but 2 reasons why this information is so powerful. Reason number 1 is that you don't have to waste your movement speed trying to get to the person that you're trying to revive. And reason number 2 is that using the help action requires an action, whereas quite a few healing spells only require a bonus action. So here on my turn, I can use Healing Word to revive Gale without having to waste a full action. Remember this because it is so important. Tip number 5 is sending items to other characters. It's so easy to forget to do this in the heat of battle and forget to check everyone's inventories. And on top of that, the most powerful piece of information I can give you for this tip is that you can transfer any item at will, regardless of distance from the character, and completely for free. It doesn't require an action, it doesn't even require a bonus action. So if someone over on the other side of the room has an elixir of hill giant strength and you really want your warrior to have it so that they deal a bit more damage in this fight, just send it to them. It's that easy. It doesn't even require an action. Or if someone's got a scroll of chain lightning on them and another one of your characters gets surrounded by lots of smaller, weaker enemies, just send them the scroll of chain lightning so they can use it. It's instant, it's free, and it's so easy to forget. Just check everyone's inventory every so often, see what they're all working with, and shuffle it around even mid-combat. There is absolutely no downside. Later on in the game, your action bars can start to get very cluttered. You unlock a lot of spells and abilities and items, etc. However, did you know with every single ability associated to a weapon, be it regular attacks, special attacks, or even spells that you have temporarily unlocked because of that weapon, you can just click on the image of the weapon and it will show you every ability associated to that weapon. Now, what you can do is switch back to your action bar and remove all them abilities from your action bar. The downside with this is you do really need to know your weapons very well, because you could forget that, I don't know, as an example, maybe this sword gives you Misty Step, and if you remove it from your action bar and you have it just tied to when you click on that weapon, you might forget you've got it. So you do need to have a good knowledge of your weapons, but if you're willing to spend them extra few seconds clicking on your weapons each round of combat just to check what abilities they have, this way you can keep your other action bars nice and clear and stop having to go into the 3 and 4 rows for the entirety of the second half of the game. Tip number 7 is to always remember to check your enemy's conditions and resistances so that you know you're using the correct tools for the situation. You can either right click on them and then select examine, or literally just hover over them and press T to open up this window. And here we can see Zarel is resistant to fire and the dwarf nearby is resistant to poison. So if I want to do a big AoE attack that affects all of them, ideally I want to avoid fire and poison spells. And this is just a great way to make sure you're making the most out of every single attack. Sometimes you'll find out that enemies had weaknesses you had no idea about, and then you can focus on doing that damage type and that damage type alone to deal the most amount of damage. Baldur's Gate is a turn-based game. It's made to be played slow and tactical and methodical. So take a few seconds examining your enemies and make sure you are getting the most out of every single attack, especially if we're talking about tactician mode, because it can get quite tough. This next tip is primarily aimed at the people that want to play quote-unquote correctly. I am not an elitist, but for those of you who don't like to save scum and view it as cheating, then this is a fantastic way to have a more successful game. If every single member of your party has failed a skill check, don't forget you can just go back to camp and swap out some of your characters so that you can try again. This sluice valve, for instance, gave me so much trouble. So as an additional bonus tip on top of this tip, let's use this as an example. As you can see, this requires an athletics check. Now that you know this, you're going to check all your characters and see who has the highest bonus modifier in athletics. Then you're going to look at all of your spells and see how you can make this as high as possible to give you the absolute best chance of succeeding this check. Just 2 examples and exactly what I did in my playthrough to succeed this. I used Lae'zel and I applied Bull's Strength from the level 2 transmutation spell Enhance ability, and then I also gave her Bardic Inspiration. This gave her a ridiculously high chance of success and she nailed it first time. Tip number 9 is to not forget that items like boots, gauntlets and helms all also have an armor type. It's not just your primary torso equipment that has an armor type. Therefore, if you've accidentally equipped medium type gloves or helm to a character not proficient in medium armor, they are going to suffer disadvantages to some of their rolls. Just always double check all of the armor that you're equipping to your party, not just the chest. Because if they aren't proficient in just one slot, it will severely hinder a good chunk of their actions. Tip number 10 is a lovely little quality of life improvement. If you're trying to sneakily loot something or pick a lock or pickpocket, whatever it may be, and you keep hiding and unhiding and hiding and unhiding, because every time someone sees you, it kicks you back out of stealth again, to save having to mess around with positioning and turn-based mode and all that malarkey, just hold down left shift and you will see everyone's field of vision. Using this, you can enter turn-based mode at the most opportune time, saving yourself a lot of time and effort. And this technique can be applied in so many situations, so just play around with it and see how this works for you. Tip 11 is more general than any other on this list, and it is basically just to make sure you're always using your environment when in combat. And to give you just a few examples now, because the list is endless. Most ladders and bridges can be destroyed. Not only will this cut off routes of attack for your enemies, funneling them into the areas you specifically want them to be, but also if they are stood on something breakable and you break it, they will be sent flying to their death. And on top of that, there are endless amounts of throwable, smashable, and breakable things. If there's a flaming chandelier above a group of enemies, shoot it and it will come crashing down on them. Or you can even telekinesis that flaming barrel into a group of enemies, causing a huge explosion. The possibilities are endless, so at the start of every combat, look around, see what you have to work with, and utilize that in your attacking strategies. Tip number 12 is about the Arcane Tower in the Underdark. Specifically, this is how to make the most out of the ring that Bernard drops, Guiding Light. Now, in theory, you can just speak to him, quoting the correct stanzas of a play, and you will then be rewarded with this ring upon completing a quest. However, it's currently bugged, and the only way to receive this ring is by killing him, as I have done here. Now, as for the hidden feature of the ring, equip it on any character and a new button will be revealed on the elevator, sending you all the way down to the basement. Here, there is an absolute ton of lore, loads of useful items and crafting materials, most importantly being the Staff of Arcane Blessing, which you see here in my inventory. Initially, this staff doesn't look great. However, it enhances an already very powerful ability. We spoke about the power of Bless in my Elixirs and Potions video, and this staff grants you Mistra's Blessing, which adds an additional 1d4 to your saving throws and weapon attack rolls, and an additional 2d4 to spell attack rolls when under the effects of Bless. So if you combine the elixir that I spoke about, which allows Bless to last infinitely, with this staff, your character is going to be ridiculously OP up until your next long rest. This next tip blew my mind when I first learned it. Hopefully you all know by now that wizards can learn spells from scrolls, effectively by the end of the game teaching them every single spell in the game. However, as you get more and more scrolls in your inventory, it becomes a bit tedious checking every single one to see what they know and what they don't. However, if you open up the spellbook with K and then press this Learn More Spells button here, it will give you a lovely handy list of all the spells you don't know yet, how much they cost to learn, and what level you need to be to learn them. If you're unsure why some of them have a star and are in green, that's because they are evocation spells, and because Gale is an evocation wizard, they cost half as much to learn. But this is such a quick, fast, and easy way of learning loads of new spells for your wizard. Let me start tip 14 by giving everyone an example of the problem that this fixes. Have you ever had this problem where you want to split your party up, so you grab your character portrait and you have to drag it so far away to get rid of this bloody chain before that character is then separated, and then to try and reconnect the characters again is just as much of a pain, and sometimes the portrait tries to go underneath and then it unconnects again and then it reconnects, then it goes in the wrong place. Oh, it's such a bloody nightmare. Did you know that you can just press G on your keyboard? I don't know what the button is for controller, hopefully it will tell you in the settings, but there is a quick group and ungroup button, and if you just press G, everyone will be separated, and you can now quickly and easily position and set everyone up for the next fight. It really is that simple and easy, and this one tiny little quality of life change blew my mind and made the game so much more enjoyable. For the penultimate tip, if you're out of lockpicks, if your lockpicking skill isn't good enough, or if you just can't be asked to do the little lockpicking minigame, don't forget that you can just smash down doors. Karlach has opened far more doors and chests for me in my playthrough than my own resident lockpicking expert. And if you didn't know, a bonus tip about chests, if you smash them, don't worry, you will not damage any of the contents. Someone has tested this with something like 1,000 chests, and every single one had exactly what it was intended to. So yes, feel free to smash everything open, it will be absolutely fine. And the final tip for this video is twofold, and it's all about that top bar when you're in combat. The first and more obvious thing I wanted to tell you is just to make sure that you're eliminating enemies in order of their turns coming up. Be efficient with how and when you kill enemies. As you can see here, we have two spellcasters who don't act until the very end of the round, and they are both casting a spell called Concentration Astral Rift. I have never let them finish doing what they're doing, but I can only assume it calls through reinforcements. So of course, as they act last, along with weakening other enemies, my primary target is going to be to take them both out before they can do anything. And in the meantime, as you see with Karlach here, we are going to use Soulbreaker to stun one of the more powerful enemies, so I have an entire extra turn to act before they can retaliate. And using this method of officially disabling targets that you can't kill in one turn is basically going to give you free actions and help you deal so much more damage whilst taking minimal damage. As we're wrapping up the video, I'd just like to remind you that you can play Enlisted now for free on PC, PlayStation and Xbox and get a free bonus pack including multiple weapons and soldiers using my link below in the description. And the second and most important part of this tip is, did you know if you are having trouble targeting an enemy from their character model, you can click your spell and then just click on their face up on the top bar. This will also work. Sometimes because of the environment or because of your larger summons, it can be really hard to actually click on an enemy. So just select the attack you want to use and click on their face in the top bar, and that will eliminate this problem for you. And that is it for my top 16, which kind of turned into more like 20 tips for things that you still weren't doing in Baldur's Gate 3. Hopefully, armed with all this knowledge, even Tactician mode will now be an absolute breeze for you. And with that, all that's left for me to say is thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye-bye.